Salve Omnibus. So the purpose of this video is to expand on, clarify, and answer some of the questions/criticisms of my video outlining why I'm a monarchist. And while I'm still happy with the video and stand by what I said, I think there are aspects of it which may not provide a sufficient answer to some people. And I happen to have some further thoughts on the topic, so I think expounding on the idea of monarchy some more is useful. So the first point I'm going to address, and the biggest self-criticism I had, is the second half of my video, wherein I assert the burden of proof lies with the Republicans to demonstrate why a republic is more desirable than a monarchy. I then proceed to assert the numerous issues I have with republicanism, namely that it seems like a system which can only come about through violence and which doesn't actually solve the problems its proponents said it would when the republic/democracy replaced the monarchy, and I still stand by that, but I really don't like how I phrased it. I felt like I was almost blaming anyone who is in support of the current system of a democratic republic as being complicit in the aforesaid violence, and that is wrong and I apologize. I realize now the importance of separating ideas from people, because my grandmother is a supporter of the American Republic, and the last thing I could ever say of her is that she is immoral or can be complicit in violence. The second point I wanted to address is something which I have been repeatedly asked for in my process of making my case for monarchy, and that is a coherent, stable, and reliable definition of the term. And I think this is a perfectly reasonable request, so what do I exactly mean when I say monarchy? For me, I think Aristotle provided the most solid definition. According to him, monarchy was a system of government in which political power was vested in the hands of one individual for the purpose of the common good of the whole of society. This definition not only outlines specifically how government is to be structured, with one individual at its head, but also outlines the purpose of said government. It is not for the benefit of that individual, but for the common good of everyone. The definition also provides flexibility as to what specific powers the monarch should have, and exactly how he should come to power, be it through election or, as I think it should, through the family. But it is still rigid enough to provide a concrete understanding of the fundamentals, that political power, that the common good of society should be in the hands of one person instead of the few or the many. So, the third point I'd like to address is what exactly I am in opposition to when I speak about Republicans/Democrats, because I'm not actually, in truth, opposed to the idea of a democracy or a republic in the classical sense. I think there's much to admire about these governments, the way the ancients knew them. It's just that for me personally, I think a monarchy is the best. But again, I have no ideological hatred for these other forms of government. What I really have a problem with, and what I'm more opposed to than anything else here, is the ideologically fueled concepts of democracy and republicanism that came out of the Enlightenment. My general disenfranchisement with Enlightenment thought warrants its own video, but in short, the way I see it is that the narrative of this abstract idea of liberty that is inherent to all men, that we all desire to be free in this abstract sense and govern ourselves, and that if we can just throw off the shackles of tradition, religion, and monarchy, we can live in a utopia, is something which, while in its purest form died in the French Revolution, parts of still survived in countries like the United States and Britain, and this turned into a sort of pathological need to force the world to conform to one world government, and it persisted and manifested itself in the wars of the 20th and early 21st century. To put it frankly, I think the liberalism that came out of the Enlightenment corrupted our understanding of government away from understanding our relation to the community, family, and greater polity, and forced us into seeing everything through the ideological lens of liberalism. So I think to conclude, I'd like to explain why, if we can now talk about government in the classical sense, I believe political power should be in the hands of one person as opposed to the few or the many. And I think my primary reason for this is that when political hands of a few, presumably some form of aristocracy, they tend to view political power as a means for their own gain, and not for the benefit of the greater good of society. And you can see this with Roman aristocrats in the late Republic to modern multinational oligarchs, who seem to have absolutely no interest in the societies they inhabit, and arguably with the case of people like George Soros or Hillary Clinton, use the power they have to the direct detriment of the people they rule over. I also don't support a direct democracy or a republic with a high amount of suffrage either, because, in my view, this is just asking for a political class of professional liars to come around and make endless promises to their voters. It almost always seems to also split society into various political factions, and as we are seeing right now, this is tearing society apart. When political power is theoretically in the hands of everyone, people begin falling to collective identity movements instead of, as on the same side, working for the greater good of one society. So I believe that having one person in charge of society, one king, one leader, is the best way of both preserving society's stability and preventing abuse of power. Because first of all, the king, the monarch, has the highest attainable possible position in the land. He cannot rise any higher, and so there is no need for him, because his position is guaranteed, and it is guaranteed for his children as well, for him to be corrupted. Now, this also provides a nice wealth of social stability because of the fact that you avoid political factions when everyone can be united behind one sovereign king. Now, he also leads through example to embody the values and traditions and culture of that society to be what the society should strive to be. So that's about it in terms of my further thoughts on monarchy. Diabana.